telephoned a member of the investigative team and threatened to kill that agent and his family members by cutting off their heads.
Tonight, a takedown of what federal authorities describe as a brazen human smuggling operation here in the West, accused of bringing at least 20,000 undocumented immigrants into the U.S. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. Authorities have made 4 arrests so far, and they're working to track down one other person they believe was involved in this smuggling operation. As Fox 11's Laura Diaz reports tonight, investigators believe this criminal organization started in Guatemala.
The indictment alleges a transnational criminal organization. They were held hostage, sometimes for months at a time. There was violence threatened against family members, often down in Guatemala. They would tell the individual at the stash house that, we're going to harm your family in Guatemala if you don't pay.
That's the acting U.S. Attorney, Joseph T. McNally, describing the conditions victims were subjected to of a notorious human smuggling operation at a news conference Monday. According to multiple law enforcement agencies, some 20,000 undocumented immigrants were smuggled in over a decade, paying up to $18,000 to get to the U.S. As you see here, the ring transported people from Guatemala to Mexico to the U.S., often landing in L.A. They then faced uncertain futures or became victims of violence.
Human smuggling is a grave and dangerous endeavor that people who are mostly desperate and looking for a better life engage in.
The last week saw a flurry of activity and high-profile raids that reportedly sent a chill through some immigrant communities. Fox 11 flew overhead for operations in the Westlake District, southeast of downtown Los Angeles, Friday. But law enforcement said their multitask law operation resulted in charges against 4 smuggling suspects accused of trafficking undocumented immigrants. The immigrants included 7 who died in this car crash in 2023. The operators of the so-called Torco organization were charged in federal court last week. If convicted, they could face the death penalty. The acting U.S. attorney said Friday, as search warrants were carried out, Elmer Obispo Hernandez, who remains at large, called an agent and threatened him as the raids were happening.
While search warrants were being executed in Los Angeles on Friday, he telephoned a member of the investigative team and threatened to kill that agent and his family members by cutting off their heads.
And that was Fox 11's Laura Diaz reporting tonight. Authorities are looking for other suspects, they say, and exploring possible connections to criminal cartels. We turn now to a developing story in Arizona. A brush fire prompted evacuations today in St. John's, northeast of Phoenix. Images posted online show the flames near some homes, but there are no reports tonight of any buildings that were damaged by the fire. Crews have stopped the forward progress of the fire. They did so late today, but they also say that strong winds still pose a threat. About 70 acres were burned here. Investigators so far have not commented on a possible cause. Also in Arizona, an investigation is underway tonight into a deadly shooting by FBI agents. This happened today as agents executed a search warrant on the Hopi Reservation northeast of Flagstaff. Navajo police say the suspect who died pulled a weapon on agents. The suspect has not been identified. The shooting is now under review by the FBI's Inspection Division. A Washington state trooper is on administrative leave tonight after being arrested for a deadly crash. Investigators suspect Sarah Klassen was under the influence, driving in her personal vehicle when she struck a motorcyclist in Benton County on Saturday. Klassen was taken into custody on suspicion of vehicular homicide with suspicion of DUI. She will remain on leave as local police continue an independent investigation. And the search goes on in Oregon tonight for a toddler who's been missing since Saturday. 2-year-old Dane Paulson was last seen playing in the front yard of his home in Silletts, about 120 miles southwest of Portland. Police, rescuers, and volunteers have searched more than 300 square miles so far using boats, divers, drones, and dogs. Others are supporting the search teams with food and supplies.
It's been physically hard, but nothing compared to what the family's going through. And our hearts go out to them, and the community has just stepped up so much.
Dane is described by those who know him as friendly and fearless and comfortable around strangers and water, but they also say that he cannot swim. Authorities say they have no reason at this point to suspect foul play. Today, President Trump announced 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, and they are set to take effect tomorrow.
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
The president says those tariffs are meant to force the two countries to take additional steps to curb the amount of fentanyl that's being smuggled into the U.S. Many, though, feel the tariffs could spark a trade war. Canada has already said it's poised to retaliate with its own tariffs. The foreign minister of Canada said today President Trump's claims of a crisis at the northern border are just not true.
No, that's not the case at the border. We know we have a good plan. We know that we've invested in it. We know that we've answered questions that the Trump administration had regarding our efforts.
The foreign minister said leaders in Canada and the U.S. are having constructive conversations, but she added there is a level of, quote, unpredictability and chaos coming out of the Oval Office. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said her country still is waiting to see if President Trump follows through with those tariffs as negotiations are continuing. On Wall Street today, stocks tumbled for their worst sell-off of the year, with traders, of course, concerned about the impact of tariffs on U.S. companies. The Dow was down nearly 650 points. That's 1.5%. The Nasdaq dropped 497 points, more than 2.5%. And the S&P was off nearly 2% with a loss of 104 points. President Trump will deliver a speech to a joint session of Congress tomorrow night. As KTVU's Greg Lee reports tonight, some lawmakers from here in the West are planning to have guests in attendance at that speech who oppose the president's agenda.
A new national pride is sweeping across our nation.
Like he did to begin his first term in 2017, President Donald Trump is set to address a joint session of Congress for the first time since returning to the White House. His speech comes as he reshapes and continues to work to shrink federal government.
Because Republicans control the whole of government, because they have been on the offensive for 40-plus days, there are a number of things where Donald Trump is going to talk about successes.
Since taking office 6 weeks ago, Trump has signed a flurry of executive orders on issues ranging from foreign policy to dismantling DEI policies to the border and immigration.
The degree to which this is a combination of a presidential address and a MAGA rally, and how those two things clash.
Your country's in big trouble. Wait a minute. No, you've done a lot of talking.
The address comes on the heels of the Oval Office blow-up between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump teased that he would reveal the future of a rare earth minerals deal with Ukraine during the speech, doubling down on his criticism of Zelensky.
Well, I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin.
Uniquely embarrassing, horrific moment for diplomacy globally. Up until Friday, Ukraine was an ally to the United States. My hope is that we will make amends and do what's right as a country.
Democrats will try to counter the president's message with a rebuttal from first-term Senator Alyssa Slotkin and a progressive pre-buttal from newly elected Bay Area Congresswoman Latifah Simon.
What I know and what we're seeing here on the ground in the Capitol is these attacks, from the executive orders to the budget fight that you all will see in a couple of weeks, it is going to severely cut medical care for low-income and middle-income people.
The other elephant in the room is obviously Elon Musk. And what do you do about Doge?
In protest of federal job cuts and funding freezes led by Elon Musk, many Democrats have invited fired federal employees as their guests. A White House spokesperson panned the move, saying it's, quote, exploiting the American people for political points.
Democrats and Republicans must come to an agreement on the budget by March 14th. That's next Friday to avoid a partial government shutdown. In the newsroom, Greg Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, road closures, health alerts, and businesses forced to shut down temporarily, all because of this large dust storm that was sweeping across New Mexico today. Coming up tonight, see how the dust created near zero visibility in some places.
And giving you a live look here over the San Francisco Bay Area, where I am tracking several rounds of unsettled days. I'll have a look at what you can expect coming up.
The women are the decision makers, and if we don't figure out how to serve and make them feel safe in the construction industry, Construction will always have a bad rap.
A mission to get more women working in construction here in the West. We'll hear tonight from one CEO who says achieving that goal will be a win for businesses and consumers. Many people across the Pacific Northwest started their day off with a jolt. A 4.5 magnitude earthquake struck this morning, centered in Friday Harbor, north of Seattle. As Fox 13's AJ Janavel reports, scientists say this event should serve as a reminder of the region's vulnerability to seismic activity.
Hundreds injured, billions of dollars in damage. The Nisqually remains the costliest earthquake in America over the last 3 decades.
We see more earthquakes than most places in the world, absolutely. See, we were sitting right on top of this earthquake with one of our stations.
Harold Tobin is the go-to expert for earthquake information in Washington. He's the director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network at the University of Washington, as well as the state seismologist. He tells me Seattle is a much different city since the Nisqually disaster.
We've made a lot of progress in earthquake preparedness. I mean, for one thing, the viaduct.
Torn down in 2019. Tobin tells me we're lucky the viaduct didn't crumble 2 decades before during the Nisqually quake.
And was replaced by the tunnel. That's a massive improvement. There's also lots of seismic retrofitting that's taken place.
Unfortunately, that's not the case for every old building in the city. According to Seattle City data I obtained, there are about 1,100 structures susceptible to earthquake damage, including schools, apartments, and offices.
While we build new buildings to increased seismic safety codes, we don't have a code that requires the repair of older buildings. Recording of this morning's earthquake.
While several recent earthquakes, like Monday's in the San Juan Islands, got national attention, Tobin tells me what we're seeing is not that uncommon.
They're a reminder that we live in a seismically active place and there are earthquake hazards for us, unfortunately, here in the Puget Sound area.
And that was Fox 13's AJ Janavel reporting tonight. Today's earthquake was the strongest to hit that part of Washington since 2019. A major dust storm left many cars and buildings in New Mexico covered in a haze tonight. Strong winds kicked up dust this afternoon, creating near zero visibility in some areas west of Las Cruces. Interstate 10 closed temporarily in that area because of the dust storm. Some businesses were also forced to close for the day, and doctors urge people to stay indoors. There was also new snowfall here in the West today. A camera mounted over Flagstaff picked up these images of snow falling late this afternoon. A little farther south, a red flag warning expired just a few minutes ago because of dangerous fire conditions. For more, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Rosemary Orozco, who's tracking all of this activity. And Rosemary, we're also talking about new storms expected to hit the West later this week.
You're right, Alex. That unsettled weather is going to last as we get into the first full week of March. Giving you a view here over Phoenix this afternoon. Started out with scattered showers, but by the afternoon, breaking away to partly cloudy, beautiful weather there. 67 for the second half of the day. Here's a look at the West Coast satellite and radar. There's a look at the storm that pushed through and brought unsettled weather to California over the weekend. It is now kind of parked right over the Four Corners and bringing that weather over to areas near Colorado as well as Utah, and as we showed you, Arizona as well. Here's a look at the next system. This is what Alex was alluding to. It's going to come ashore and bring scattered showers to California, parts of the Pacific Northwest, and going to bring some snow to the Sierra in areas over California. Winter weather advisory for areas of Utah as well as Colorado will continue into tonight and even into tomorrow morning as that storm continues to push off to the east. California today saw a break, 58 degrees in San Francisco under mostly cloudy, breezy conditions. And in Southern California, here's a look at Santa Monica. We're coming in right about 64 degrees this afternoon, partly to mostly cloudy skies, and the wind advisory continues for parts of Southern California this evening. It stretches from areas of San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County through Ventura County and into Los Angeles and parts of San Diego as well. That will expire. For some, it'll be later this evening. For others, it'll be tomorrow morning. And the forecast here for tomorrow morning showing you the rain coming ashore areas over the Pacific Northwest, all the way down to about the Bay Area. So scattered showers, especially over areas to the north. And then as we get into Wednesday, it looks like central and southern portions of the state will see that round of rain with just a few scattered showers and an unsettled weather expected for parts of Thursday. Another round of unsettled weather pushing through on Thursday. Right now, Friday looks dry. The weekend could be a bit soggy, especially the back end of the weekend. Here's a look at the forecast over the next 3 days. Again, calling for scattered showers and the potential for some Sierra snow over areas of California. And as we look towards Phoenix, we've got some nice weather coming here with temperatures into the low 70s, even mid and upper 70s. So very spring-like weather as opposed to those 80s and near 90 degrees that Phoenix had not that long ago. You get into Colorado, it's going to be a breezy cold one tomorrow, followed by 56 degrees on Wednesday, and then temperatures will dip once again as we head into Thursday. Alex?
Yeah, far cry from those warm temperatures we saw last week. Rosemary, thank you. The Nevada bill that aims to lure film production studios to Las Vegas had its first hearing earlier today. Hundreds of workers across trade unions and the entertainment industry testified in support of the bill, which proposes $120 million in tax credits over 15 years at a 31-acre movie studio campus. Earlier this week, Warner Brothers and Sony Pictures announced they would develop the site together. Supporters say the bill would create 15,000 jobs a year, with a mandate that half of those jobs be set aside for Nevada residents.
We have a lot of folks waiting on the bench. Make sure we can not only get our folks back to work, but expand our workforce.
It's not a shortage of workers at all. It's a shortage of jobs that are good paying jobs.
This bill would require an educational and vocational building on campus. However, opponents of the bill are concerned about the budget impact and whether the state could afford tax credits amid looming federal cuts. The CEO of an Arizona-based company wants to see more women on construction payrolls. Fox 10's Dominique Newland spoke with the CEO to find out why she thinks getting more women involved in the industry will help to create better homes and businesses.
According to recent U.S. Census Bureau data, only 11.5% of payroll employees in the construction industry are women, something CEO of American Solar and Roofing, Joy Seitz, is trying to change.
The fact is that we need more women and more thoughtful conversations happening, and we all come from different walks of life. And so my perspective is completely different than how a man engages the world and engages the community in which solar serves.
She started her career in 2009, working her way up the ropes, and says having more women in the industry who may think differently or ask certain questions their male colleague might not is vital to a diverse and healthy work environment.
I know that a female's voice is critical because the women are the decision makers. And if we don't figure out how to serve and make them feel safe in the construction industry, construction will always have a bad rap.
With 15 years under her belt and serving as a solar energy advocate, Seitz says her job is to make sure everyone feels safe. And she always works with HR to make sure any woman that's applied for a job in her company is interviewed.
In the Women in Construction Week, right, we're just looking for females or men who respect powerful decision makers in the construction industry to help the industry grow and help infrastructure grow.
And grow the number of women in construction jobs for years to come, making the business more inclusive and continuing to help build the next home, roof, or solar project. For Fox 10 News, I'm Dominique Newland.
Tonight, environmentalists are hopeful we'll see the hatching of 2 bald eagle eggs here in the West sometime this week. This is a live look tonight at Jackie and Shadow's nest in Big Bear Valley. This is in Southern California's San Bernardino Mountains, and you can see one of those 2 eagles is on top of the eggs here in this shot. The organization involved here is called the Friends of Big Bear Valley. They have been monitoring the bird's nest around the clock for some years now. The nonprofit picked up images of tiny cracks in 2 eggs this morning. It posted those images online, cautioning everyone that successful hatching is not guaranteed. It could take a couple days for any chicks to fully emerge. Let's go back now quickly to that live picture of the nest. A successful hatching would be a really big deal because bald eagles were once endangered in this country. The last time one of Jackie and Shadow's eggs hatched successfully was 3 years ago. So we will continue to monitor the situation there in the San Bernardino Mountains in Southern California and hoping that things go well here in the next week or so. Ahead tonight here on West Coast Wrap, an incredible sight attracting crowds in the Pacific Northwest. See how people are getting just a few feet away from killer whales in the wild. Also tonight, Amazon wants to see more girls coding. We'll show you how the company is hoping to make that happen.
Oh! He took the bird.
A lot of people crowding to the edge of Seattle's Puget Sound for a shot at seeing nature on display. A pod of orcas known as Big's killer whales made several appearances over this past weekend. Just yesterday, the pod popped up above the surface near Elliott Bay, dazzling onlookers. Big's killer whales are orcas that usually prey on marine mammals like sea lions or porpoises, and they occasionally do visit the waters near Seattle. An incredible sight there. Finally, tonight, Seattle-based Amazon is hoping that offering special classes will get more girls excited about a future in tech. Fox 13's Shira Matsuzawa shows us how the retail giant is teaching teenagers to code.
No, this isn't your typical classroom.
I see that you are all deep in your work.
This group of 13 to 18-year-olds are learning about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and what it takes to build a website.
So you just want to repeat this process for every class.
This was day 2 of nonprofit Code with Clossie's Codeabration program, held at Amazon in downtown Seattle.
Today we've kind of been teaching our students about like UI, UX and AI models. So they're kind of working on a passion project where they're going to train like different models to identify like images.
Aditi attended this camp when she was in high school. Now she's back as an instructor assistant and a freshman in college.
We don't really have as much like representation and spaces where we kind of get to like explore our like STEM principles. So this is just like a really unique space for us to kind of like express our voices and ideas. And I think especially for like young girls who might like feel those stereotypes more like in high school or elementary, middle school, like this is a way for them to like break out of that.
She's referring to the gender gap in the tech industry. Code with Clossie CEO O.C. Imyaparia says the nonprofit was founded 10 years ago to address that gap, something she has firsthand experience with.
I have lived all the journey from being a young person who was curious about technology to eventually being a director of product at Google. And I think that journey is so much what fuels me in my role today. The biggest hope we have is they walk out feeling confident that they can do something hard. Right? That this thing that everybody's talking about on the news and abstract form, AI everywhere, is really something that they have now tangible experience with.
And they hope that will generate a newfound curiosity and passion that will last beyond the keystroke.
That's a good question. At the end of the day, technology helps create opportunity and solve problems, and we think that everybody should be part of that conversation.
Shira Matsuzawa, Fox 13 News.
Such an important effort there. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching. Have a great rest of your night.